Legends of Runeterra is widely praised for its contributions to the broader League mythos, fleshing out the world and giving the spotlight to characters that are otherwise neglected or forgotten about. While some champions are popular enough to warrant multiple appearances across Riot's various projects, others are sadly left in the dust with outdated designs or next to no story progression. The card game has picked up a lot of that slack over the years, but it adapts some champions more gracefully than others. Welcome to Runeterra Rankings, where I attempt to break down how every League champion has been adapted into the trading card game and rank them based on the following criteria: gameplay, art, and story. There are 5 total points to earn in each category, with a perfect score totaling to 15. With all that out of the way, let's jump right in, shall we? Fizz is a fairly simplistic character, all things considered. He's what you might call a trickster archetype. Playful and mischievous, but often at the detriment of others. He's a carefree character on the surface, but that jovial nature is simply a means to cope with tragedy. In truth, Fizz once resided in a great underwater city until it was attacked and destroyed by sea monsters. He seeks the company of land dwellers to fill the void, but doesn't quite understand the intricacies of how human society works. He is quite literally a fish out of water, desperately trying to fit in. So, does he fit into the card game well? Let's have a look. Fizz's playstyle is all about casting spells. To level him up, you need to play a total of 6 or more spells over the course of the game. At a glance, this doesn't really seem to make a great deal of sense. Fizz isn't really a mage in League or in the lore. He has some magical abilities, sure, but Fizz is more of a physical fighter than anything. This playstyle starts to make a little more sense when you see Fizz's passive ability, though. The first time you play a spell in a round, he gains the elusive keyword. What's more, any enemy spells that were targeting Fizz are instantly negated. This plays into his trickster persona, granting him stealth and allowing him to wiggle his way out of trouble. It actually bears some resemblance to his E ability in League, which allows Fizz to evade enemy attacks and become untargetable for a second. At level 2, Fizz more or less stays the same, but with a small added bonus. He now makes chum the waters every time he strikes his enemy nexus. Basically, if he manages to sneak his way into dealing damage, he gets to effectively cast his ult. Chum the Waters is a spell that summons a long tooth and gives the enemy vulnerable, basically turning them into shark food like he does in League. While the parallels might not be super obvious at first, Fizz's portrayal in LOR is surprisingly accurate to both his gameplay and his personality. After some deliberation, I honestly have to give Fizz's gameplay a 5 out of 5. Fizz's story in LOR is nothing to write home about, honestly. His level 1 shows him sneaking up on the Conchologist, a Yordle who studies undersea life in the Bilgewater region. Fizz's level 2 art shows him leaping out of the water on a Longtooth to startle the poor guy. While it is fitting for Fizz's character to show him in the midst of pranking someone, he doesn't really have any sort of grander narrative going on. We don't learn anything new about Fizz, his backstory, or how he interacts with the world. It's just more of the same that we already knew. Fizz likes playing pranks on people and having fun, even if it comes at others' expense. It's not bad, but it doesn't really offer much to talk about. If anything, it ties more into the Conchologist's story and his encounters with various sea life. Though, is it not strange to give a follower more story content than the actual champion? Granted, I guess it technically wouldn't be the first time LOR has done that, but neither Fizz nor his followers ultimately do all that much of interest. There's nothing necessarily wrong with keeping things simple, but as it stands, the best I can give this story is a 2 out of 5. The level 1 has setup, and the level 2 is the payoff to a prank. That's really all there is to it. Alright, so Fizz's art is a little strange to talk about. During the launch of the Bandlewood expansion, he actually got an update that gave him a totally new set of artwork for his level 1 and level 2. I've been deliberating whether or not I should talk about all 4 pieces or just focus on the current card art, but ultimately I think it's only fair to cover everything. Besides, it doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things, I think. So Fizz's design in Legends of Runeterra is pretty much a one-to-one translation of his design in League. No real alterations have been made, but honestly I think that's fine. Fizz is hardly what I'd call the best character design in League, but you know everything you really need to just from looking at him. He's an impish little fish man who loves mischief, carrying around a peculiar magical trident. Be it his new or old art, Fizz's Runeterra incarnation sticks to that design pretty faithfully, though I do personally prefer the artwork of his new level 2 that shows him riding the Longtooth as opposed to skipping along the water next to it. Makes it clearer to the audience that these two are companions, and I am a sucker for level ups that actually show a champion changing or getting stronger in some way. Riding on the back of a shark is certainly one way to accomplish that. As a whole, I give Fizz's artwork in LOR a 4 out of 5. It doesn't really do anything to reinvent the character's design, but it doesn't really need to. I guess my only complaint is that Fizz's face in nearly all these iterations looks slightly uncanny. Is that just me? Maybe it's just me. As a whole, Fizz's depiction in LOR has never been particularly exciting to me. Putting that aside and looking at it from an objective standpoint, though, I can't deny that the art and the gameplay do a good job of capturing his character. The one area where Fizz falls short is his narrative, which really just amounts to Fizz is causing mischief because that's what he does. His pranks don't really set off any grander plot lines or get him tangled up in any sort of real story, but his new artwork at least tells a coherent series of events compared to his original card. Adding it up, I give Fizz an 11 out of 15. Not bad, but there's room for improvement.